Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can even finish the bachelor's degree you started in 22 months for $20,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by pace, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
Hi, and welcome back to Realistic Sustainability. I'm Mike, and I am here with Mr. Rob Bogan.
Tis I am here again.
I had to drag you back in. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on. You've been very busy because in the United States, it's like we put everything in it and shook it like a box, and we've just made a mess. So there's a lot of content and a lot of recording and self-reflecting and all kinds of fun stuff going on right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. You make me sound way more important than I actually am, and I have been largely busy trying to hide myself from the rest of the world. Things are a nightmare, and sometimes when things get bad, I tend to, as you well know, I tend to tuck tail and hide from everything. But also, you are one of the few people that I can depend on to kind of pull me out of that funk. So I'm glad to have the invite.
Everything is temporary. No matter how mad we get, no matter how much damage there is, good or bad, everything is temporary. I refuse to think otherwise. And it might be secular. We may see it every 2 or 3 generations because we're not big on learning, reading, or education, but it is temporary. So I do my best. I was just telling you that I found when TikTok came back on World Talk, and that I've completely missed the tragedies that are happening all around us. I'm the dog in the meme that's going, I'm fine, with the room burning all around it. I'm because I'm learning from people from Iceland, France, Belgium. I have seen such cool things from all over Europe, from Asia, Africa. It is amazing. It has like pulled me away from the mess that is happening in the background right now.
Definitely. And it's good to reset and, restart, so to speak, because if you hadn't done that, I'm pretty sure your feed would be nothing but death and destruction right now.
It's a lot of doom and gloom, I'm sure it would have been. I know a lot of my friends who are very even-keeled are pulling their hair out and just looking around like, what, me? Just me? Is it just me? Or what? Why is no one in a panic right now? And I understand. First things first, mental health.
Yes, always.
And then second thing, stay within your 3 miles because the global stuff is just something we can't do. We stay within that 3 miles. If you see an atrocity in your 3 miles, you manage it. Because I know, here's the deal, all jokes aside, in this area, if a place is going to get targeted because of individuals who visit, my place will be targeted.
Yeah.
All jokes aside, almost every person in our community who doesn't have a place to go comes here. So I'm making jokes, I'm making light of things, and I'm excited that I missed stuff, but the weight of it is still there. I understand it, and we are prepared.
Right on. Well, that's good, man.
And because of that, that's why we have the topic that we have today.
I love it. I'm actually excited for this because it is one of those things that I feel very strongly about it. But the discussion itself can go in so many different ways. And as usual, I am very much looking forward to walking away from this more enlightened than I was previously.
Well, something that I'm doing, and yes, I always research topics, but I saw a guy online using AI
Yeah.
to ask very basic question. And it was because of tariff. That was the actual thing he was doing.
Okay.
And he basically just said, what would happen if the United States did this, this, and this? And it came back with such a articulate, realistic, and easy to understand answer that I started realizing all the chaos around us. We can just punch that into a couple of different systems and get
Mhm.
new perspectives and real, tangible perspectives of things.
Right.
I have an idea of what it takes to make a community. Everybody knows that I'm working with a lot of people in Durand who've been working here for years to try to create a strong, thriving community.
Mhm.
But what do I miss? What don't I see? And what do we take for granted and don't even think about because it's just second nature? What I want to do is look at what makes a community.
Okay.
I mean, just that close knit, real community. Think about, I always joke about this. The people who say that their community is not what it used to be usually complain about the things that make it like it was.
Yeah.
People helping people, for example. You
Mhm.
always hear, oh, that's just someone getting stuff for free. No, it's a community. When someone's down, the others help lift. That's
It's
how this works.
socialism.
Yes. Or it's being a neighbor.
Yes,
Don't,
absolutely.
I don't subscribe to money rules all, because when you subscribe to that, 99% loses no
Mhm.
matter what, 100% of the time. So I'm not the biggest fan of measuring things by financial gain. I like to measure it by success and by growth and by learning and all these other pieces.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I can jump straight into that. Was me jumping, by the
That
way.
was you jumping in case because
It's-
no one can see this. That was quite the arm movement.
Uh-huh. So like in terms of community, this is one of those subjects that I love to talk about just because I grew up in a very close-knit community. Now, where I live right now, not so much. I say hello to my neighbors, they say hi back, and that's it. When I was younger, growing up on the north side of Flint, I grew up on Grace Street, which is off of
Mm-hmm.
DuPont, for those who may or may not know. And it was like my whole side of the block, the next block up, and then the block beyond that. Like every single family knew each other. All the kids grew up in the same neighborhood. We all played with each other. The parents hung out, played cards, drank together. We all invited each other. Well, not we all, because it was the parents, but the adults would invite each other over for barbecues, cookouts, the whole shot. And it wasn't uncommon for me to stay the night with my neighbors because I was close with the kids. It wasn't uncommon for some of my friends to stay over later in the evening with me and my mom because their parents were working late. And it was just like everything just kind of worked together. Everybody had each other's back. Everybody looked out for each other. Everybody shared resources, the whole shop. In my mind, that is the idea of a community personified. Like that is what I believe and hold true to my belief is what a community is.
So, as you know, I spend a lot of time on the north end of Flint. Stemnetics spends a lot of time there. We were just down looking at new places to move Stemnetics. I am a Carpenter and Pearson, Carpenter and Clio Road guy.
Yeah. Okay.
And when you get down there, it's funny because there's still visual differences between me and you. And when I go down there for about 3 months, I'm the white guy. But once you're in,
Yeah.
the moment we walk in to teach them, we just get mugged and hugged, and
Hmm.
you got families bringing you meals. The community is tight,
Absolutely.
and that's where the "it takes a village" comes into play. Because when you have everybody together like that, and someone has to work, someone on the block says, "Then come here.
Right.
Don't worry about it." Or someone passes away, and everybody cooks the meals and brings it to them, and hey, let's help you out. Don't worry about the lawn. I got the lawn.
Hmm.
You handle you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, it was, man, it feels like you mentioned funerals specifically, and I can remember again being younger, and one of the neighborhood stalwarts kind of passed away, and you would have thought that, this woman was a celebrity because literally every family on the block and several blocks over showed up to this woman's funeral, in addition to her family, in addition to her friends, in addition to her coworker. It was like just that long lasting impact. And that's, something that you talk about. I almost said preach about, but I don't like saying that because it feels condescending when you say somebody's preaching. But like, that's one of those things that you always talk about, is protecting your 3 miles. And I can remember, going to that funeral and thinking like, man, was she famous? Like, who did she, how did she know all these people? But, she was one of those people that did that. You know what I'm saying? She not only looked out for the community at large, but she definitely took care of, anything and everybody in or around that 3 miles. And it's just incredible to see.
And the stories that you're telling is already two of those topics that when you look at a community, and each one is a thread, right, that holds things together: mutual support and connection and interaction.
Yes.
So your connection and interaction disappears when your city, town, or neighborhood is not walkable. When everybody has to get in a car and go somewhere, it's hard to stop and talk when you're driving down the road. You start opening the spaces where people can just, probably in the neighborhood, if it was anything like my neighborhood, everybody just played in the yards, in the front yards. And they knew that every parent was keeping an eye on every kid. So they could run from house to house to house to house because it's just as protected at each place they go to. The kids stay together, and so that, kind of like the buddy system, if you will.
Yeah.
That interaction and connection, the fact that you got together for barbecues, or people sat out. I used to sit out in a lawn chair when my neighbor, who was older, lost mobility. He could only roll his chair so far. I'd grab a lawn chair, meet him halfway across our yard. We would sit in the middle of an eighth of an acre, like just staring at the road, just talking and chatting. We were that interaction, that communication, that friendship building.
Yeah.
That is what's lost in many communities by not maintaining sidewalks, by prioritizing vehicle traffic over all other modes of movement, because it is so challenging to get people to get out and talk to someone if they're driving. It's also hard to get them to buy things in your stores. They pull in, they go to the one place, they get the one thing, they get back in the car and they drive away. But if you had to park, let's say, in a lot in the back and walk out to the city strip and walk down to your store, you may stop at several stores. You may see a friend, you may see, your pastor or whoever else that's out there, stop and talk. And it's that connection and interaction that actually builds what later becomes that mutual support.
Right.
Because you know them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking, and I'm pretty sure you have a very big brained answer for this, but what do you think the effect of subdivisions and modernized housing has to do with the elimination of communities at large? Because again, on the street that I live in, I close my eyes and I can visualize it. I could walk out of my front door. I could look straight across the street at my neighbor's house, but I could also see a sidewalk going from my house all the way up to, the corner store, which we had 2 corner stores. Is one place specifically for like lottery and incense and things like that. And then there's like the actual store where, you got your food and whatever else. But then you could, hang a left and there was a sidewalk there, and you can walk, a couple hundred feet, and there was a gas station, which also had a convenience store in it. And there was houses across the street, which had a walkway that you could walk across. And I just, as an adult, I don't see that very often. Like most of the time when I'm driving through and I'm looking at these houses, I rarely, at least on my side of town. I know yours is a little different. I can remember being amazed, like, damn, they got sidewalks out here. Like I see, little gravel, where people can kind of pull up and park on or something like that, but not an official sidewalk, not an official walkway. And then outside of that, it's just driveways. It feels like everything is built to kind of get in and out.
Yeah. Which is ripping those threads that we were talking about that holds those communities together. Let's go first to the subdivision concept.
Mhm.
That doesn't necessarily destroy community. Sometimes in some groups and in some areas, those sidewalks from house to house connect those homes in the same manner your neighborhood was.
Okay.
So the witness protection, cookie cutter houses, usually, in most neighborhoods, quite expensive. I honestly believe the more expensive the house, the less connection you have to your neighbors. Now, I'm purely guessing, and I have no data to back this up other than when I go places.
Mhm.
It seems like when you have a high-end neighborhood, you see big gates, you see cameras lined up across. You can tell which person mainstreams cable news because of the big spotlights and cameras everywhere in a perfectly safe neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I could go into the north end of Flint. And
Mhm.
once someone knows who I am, they'll bring me out of water. They'll bring me, they'll come out,
Right.
you okay? You need some help,
Right.
and
Yeah.
everybody, it's fine. There's more communication, there's more interaction. Now, when you build an environment for service, is what you're talking about. Get in, get out.
Yes.
You have no interaction. And I honestly believe that's why more interactions in those stores are negative than positive. You don't walk into the same store every single day to get your coffee on your way to work and they look at you and go, "Hey, Rob, good morning." And you say, "Hey, how's it going?" And they
Right.
tell you the neighborhood news of the day and you shake hands and buy a newspaper and a coffee and you head off to work. Now, people don't even want to look at each other half the time. They
No.
get in, they get out. And
Mhm.
that is not good for a community that is going to flourish as a community. But it might be a place to live, it might be a town or a city, but it is not a community.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely can agree with that. And I know sometimes I am guilty of that. Like sometimes I come outside and I can see my neighbors out and I am like, ah shit, let me get in my car. Let me get in my car. Let me
You
get in.
do that to people you know,
This is very true
you
also.
introvert.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, most people would call me a jerk, but I appreciate the introvert label even more. I think to bounce back to a previous point that you were making, though, I think that yes, as people get those, larger, bigger, nicer homes, the focus is more on or less on community and less on being a neighbor, because largely as you move into those larger, nicer homes, even if you're in a safe neighborhood, the concern becomes privacy and security. Even if you live in a neighborhood, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's no neighborhoods with absolute zero crime, but if you lived in a neighborhood with absolute zero crime, like, you would most likely still feel inclined to put up a privacy gate or to build, I call it the fortress of trees around your house, just to kind of keep people out of it, because, as not everybody is like this, but it feels like as people start to accumulate wealth or things, as you like to call them sometimes, there's like an innate mistrust. Am I off base in that? Like, people start focusing more on protecting the things that they've acquired.
Yeah, but I haven't decided. I don't think that has anything to do with the community or the location. It's the way of life. If someone lives in a negative atmosphere or listens to a negative show, if they're always dealing with the, "Hey, this will make you mad. Listen after this." Anybody who says this is about to make you mad is followed with, "I'm about to manipulate your anger."
Definitely.
Or "This should really worry you. I'm about to manipulate your fear."
Hmm.
Fear and anger are the two easiest emotions to first put on someone and then manipulate them with. It's the bits in the horse's mouth that move you left and right. Okay. And I am guilty of walking down the street, getting a little exercise, and making fun of the house that's like Fort Knox in the middle of our neighborhood. And then I realized that they have cameras with audio, so they've heard me mocking them.
Oh,
But
for sure.
gee, can you guess which house on this block mainstreams cable news on a regular basis? I'll give you one guess. As the bright lights shine so bright into everybody's house around them because a
Mhm.
squirrel walked by. I don't necessarily. I know people work really hard to get things. They work
Mhm.
really hard to make inside nice. They do the things to make their homes special. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to protect it. But I think society works really, really hard to make people fear everything. Because you know what that does is it removes the conversation with the neighbor. It
Right.
removes the community aspect. You know how much easier it is to manipulate a person when they're isolated. When I
Yeah.
say if the mayor of the town is trying to get someone to believe in something and they all talk to each other and see something different and can argue it, that mayor never gets to get everybody to believe something silly. But if everybody is isolated and they only hear that person speak, you're
Mhm.
going to have a much higher rate of success.
Right.
Reason number 643 why communities are important. Another piece of that is you have to have a sense of belonging. You have to have a shared interest and goal.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like everybody has to love football. What I mean is everybody has to want to have a safe, fun environment. Everybody wants the same identity to
Mhm.
their town or city. So a lot of places are playing tug of war right now with their identities.
Definitely.
There's a whole bunch of people on the Sears model who are still saying 1920 was fantastic. And then there's a bunch of younger individuals going, how about we just live normal and like each other? And
Mhm.
that tug of war is happening in a lot of communities right now. And
Yeah.
you can't have cohesion with that fight. So,
I 100% agree with that for sure. And I would like to think that again, going back to the old neighborhood that I grew up in, it's why I wax so poetically about it because yeah, I mean I can remember everybody having the same ideologies. I can remember everybody having the same care of concern for the neighborhood. Like if I was walking home, and this is an actual thing that happened, you know, if I'm walking home from the store and I step over a potato chip bag that had blown into, you know, my neighbor Mrs. Brown's yard, she would pop out and be like, hey, pick that up. I know you saw that trash there, you know. And I would say, okay, yes, ma'am, in the same way as if she was my mom, you know. And it wasn't a thing to where, you know, she was too lazy to get out of her house and pick it up. It was just, you know, I was already out there. She saw some trash. She wants to keep the neighborhood looking nice. Hey, clean that up.
yep, we're being respectful, not only to the property, but to the owners.
Of course.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of little pieces, like little puzzle pieces that I'm not sure we all think about. This one I'm going to be very, very clear. Now, the people who listen to realistic sustainability probably care about environment, they probably care about social issues. I'm probably not going to reach a wildly diverse group, but cities and towns that do not have diversity, and I don't mean the construction, I mean the different people from different walks of life, from different places with different ideas, fail.
Hmm.
Almost every town you look at where everybody looks the same, it doesn't take very long before that town doesn't exist or is just a spot with a couple of thousand people. If you want ideas, if you want things to for people can learn and enjoy and have fun and do, the festivals, and you have to have different
Mhm.
ideas. You have to have different mindsets. You have to have different life experiences. You have to have come from different places to bring all that into one spot. If you can do that, it flourishes.
Mhm.
And because really what it does is it makes it more appealing for more people to come in and more people to enjoy those events. And those businesses flourish more and they hire more people. And it's this positive feedback loop.
Definitely.
Any situation that has a loss of diversity fails in the long run.
Mhm.
It is short minded, it is ignorant. So, when it comes to communities, diversity is one of those puzzle pieces that brings joy to a community.
Mhm.
So, that needs to be added to it. There has to be leadership and organization. It can't just be chaos, where nothing is ever the same. There has to be a clear leader. There has to be a process. that people can go through that isn't ambiguous, that when you go through that process, you get the result you're expecting. We have to have this organization amongst the population and the leadership in sync. That matters.
Yeah.
Because the moment you're like, they don't care, well, now there's a disconnect between the community and the leadership. That's useless.
Mm-hmm.
That draws a line, and it becomes adversaries and not partners. And if you want a community, you have to have purpose and impact. Well, it's hard to have purpose and impact if there's no communication and cohesiveness within leadership and the citizens.
So here's a question for you. Do you think that it is always best or often better that the people who are in leadership positions are people from those communities in which they are managing or overseeing or governing? Or can a person from outside of a specific community still be just as effective within a community because of, a different perspective?
I have a couple of different thoughts here, because what I can say is anybody who cares can make an impact. Where they live doesn't necessarily matter. But I also know that you have quite often less of a vested interest. It becomes more of a job, but if you live in that area, totally different. You are curating what this city will be.
Right.
And it doesn't matter which position you're in. The vested interest is far deeper than just a job. And when it comes to communities, that is very, very important, because people can feel passion. People can feel that you care, and you can do the wrong thing, but they will give you a little more leeway because they know you're working your butt off for them.
Right.
Now, if you live outside of that community, and you're close and you can be very, you're in touch and you're always around, that may not be a big deal. If you live far away and you're not at the local events and you're not mingling with everybody and available at the grocery store when you're pushing a cart and that kind of stuff, people that may be another one of those draws a line between you. I think it could be done. I think it's not optimal. I think it's optimal when the people when the rule makers abide by the same rules.
Yes.
If that makes any sense. That's, if you're going to do something, you have it affect you just as much as anybody else. And you're likely to make decisions that are better for everybody else because you're part of the everybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just to be clear, that is what I personally believe. I think, yes, if you're from outside, doing air quotes, even though they can't see me, if you're from outside, yes, if you care enough, you can 100% make a difference. But ultimately, when you leave and you go back to the place that is in your community, there's a whole different set of issues there, and maybe you're pushing for one thing because of your perspective of the community in which you work. It's the same as, police officers who work in a specific part of the city, but they live in an entirely different part. They may be less susceptible to have a certain opinion of where they live versus where they work. So yeah, I do think in order for anybody in leadership to be effective, they have to either have roots in or be directly tied to the community in which they're serving.
As you're talking, I thought of something. I think I would feel bad for someone in that situation because they're not fully vested in the place where they spend the bulk of their time.
Yeah.
But then they come home to a place that they can't spend the time to be vested in. They're almost not a citizen in either of them, or at least an active citizen in either of them, because they work and live in different communities and have to function as that. As you're saying, a police officer, a chief, a city manager, whoever.
Firefighter.
Right. In this mindset, I have to act this way over here, but in this mindset, I have to act this way over here. And at no point you get to be you.
Right.
As you're talking, I'm going, man, that would just be terrible. As I'm looking at it, that would not be optimal at all. Another thing that is absolutely a necessity is shared spaces.
Mm-hmm.
from community centers to parks to park benches to just shade in places where people are at so they can congregate around it, to some of the coffee shops, shared spaces where people could mingle, speak, and create friendships. That is also important,
Mm-hmm.
along with collaboration.
Yeah.
Because I think it takes getting to know everybody before you collaborate. But like the Edible Landscape Project, this year we got a few more people saying, "Hey man, we want to give back. Can you let us know when we can help start cleaning up the city?"
Awesome.
Absolutely. And I don't know I know one of them, so I'll get to know all of them
Mm-hmm.
while we're in shared space collaborating. And I will probably will meet some really, really cool people, and it will open my eyes to a whole nother segment or a whole nother group within our community. I will learn things, and that diversity will make my life more enriched. And that is how you build a strong base for your community.
Agreed. 1,000,000%.
Let's see, hang on a second. See here we are recording a show, and I am getting caught messing with the computer. So
I'm always doing like
yeah. Well, so okay. I get my Magic Mind drinks, right? They come on a regular basis. I'm a one per day guy, so I get the 30 kit.
yeah.
And sometimes so recently they've been doing sleep aids and all these other things, and they're just shipping them to me, right? Well, I have a lot right now. So
Okay.
while we were doing this, I was being a bad host and I was jumping into the dashboard. So when you sign up as a subscription, it gives you a full blown dashboard.
Okay.
And you can go in and say, "Hey, this week send me 15, not 30," or "Hey, skip this month, but make sure it kicks back on the next month," or "Hey, make this 15 sleep aids and 15 Magic Mind mental performance drinks." But it's like super easy. I was trying to
Okay.
get away with it before anybody noticed, but here I am like explaining it now. But that
Uh-huh.
way I can adjust it however the heck I want to. And I'm not just paying for it and building it up and just, okay, this is what I subscribe to, this is what I get. I can adjust it however I need to.
Okay.
So I was going through all these things. So I thought, maybe I should jump on here real quick while I'm thinking about it, not ignoring you,
Yeah.
but thinking about it and adjusting it. So that's what I was just doing. So I guess
Gotcha.
we'll take an opportunity here just to say, if anybody wants to try Magic Mind, go down into the description, click that link, and use Stateability 20 to get yours today. So now that I've got caught, we'll just turn it into that. How's that?
Yeah. Sounds good, man.
Hey, so anyways, for everything that you can do right for a community,
Mm-hmm.
there's a thing you can do wrong for a community.
Okay.
So
Now I'm really intrigued.
And I put this into multiple AI systems, which by the way is super fun. Put the same question into Copilot,
Yeah.
into Chat GPT, and in
Mm-hmm.
DeepSeek and see what comes out because it's different.
Ah, you're using DeepSeek. I like it.
It works better. It's quickly becoming my personal go-to because
Okay.
it functions better, it words things better, which I find funny because it's not its primary language,
Uh-huh.
but it also has the secondary layer, the deep cycling, or being able to use it as many times as you want for free. Where
Interesting.
ChatGPT, you ask enough questions, it's like, come back tomorrow.
Gotta pay for that premium.
So when I was going through and typing these in, getting new ideas, because let's face it, when I'm not in a university setting, I only have the internet and I only have my friends to get this new information. So having something like AI to spark categories to look up and to get a deeper understanding is very, very valuable to me.
Okay.
But it's funny, all of them, the very first bullet point on all three of them, lack of communication and misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
That not only when leadership doesn't have a cohesive message and does not speak in lockstep and does not have a purpose and understandable purpose behind the things they say, or you get in small towns and it's rumor this, rumor that,
Mm-hmm.
it starts peeling away at those threads. It peels away at trust, is what it does. What we have seen in the United States can be correlated smaller and smaller and smaller until you get to the town.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to manipulate people who don't trust anything. So when we got mad, when I got mad during our water episode,
Yeah.
Because when you lose trust in something, you
Hmm.
can now manipulate them into a financial way of solving it where something should be and is free. Same thing from the federal government to your local council. If
Okay.
there is not trust, it's a disaster. And that
Yeah.
is a huge part of ripping a community apart.
Yeah, well, I think at that point, you go back to the point that you just made, which is if you can't trust in anything, then there's usually a lot of confusion also present. And confusion usually lends way to fear of the unknown and anger of a perception of things not progressing the way that they should be. Fear and anger. So
Mhm.
yes, 100%. Yeah. That's
And it
that's totally a thing.
and it leads into the very next portion, which is conflict and division. Because when you can't decipher reality because of misinformation or simply just lying,
Hmm.
it creates division. You get so and so's on my side and so and so's on their side, and next thing you know, you've got the community divided.
Yeah.
That's a start over point. Like you have to go back to what we talked about earlier and start over when you have a community divided because you don't have all these lockstep items that keep the community moving forward when it's split into factions.
Hmm.
So that doesn't work. And what it generally will create is more distrust, more division. You now have different values, you have different ideas of how to go forward, which means nothing goes forward, by the way.
Hmm.
When you can't all come together, nothing goes forward. And if it does, it creates hardships on those who are on the other side. So in the United States right now, there's a smaller segment pushing to change things, creating hardships for larger segments.
Hmm.
And then as you create these hardships, animosity, anger, all that stuff amplifies. The city gets worse. The town gets worse. The neighborhood gets worse. People start to pull away.
Hmm.
And that is, at this point, you're popping threads
Right.
on that
Yeah.
stone.
That creates a lot of infighting, and yes, I can. That's another thing. I like to use your podcast as the opportunity to fess up. So like I too am guilty of that. Like, I can remember driving through my neighborhood and I would see these giant yard signs and flags and banners, and I'm like,
And that's not weird at all.
yeah, yeah. And then, as I admitted to earlier, sometimes I would see those same neighbors and, they would try and strike up a conversation about, current events. And I'm like, I gotta go.
Hmm.
Hey, get in my car. And that is one of those things though, because I know I'm going to have an entirely different thought process about what is or what isn't. They're going to have an entirely different thought process about what is and what isn't. And we are largely going to disagree on those two things. And instead of, like back in the day where you can kind of try and talk through these things to learn or to meet in the middle and live in reality, it's just a constant butting of heads and you go your separate ways or you don't talk.
Well, and again, that's because there isn't a strong enough community that allows and fosters independent thought and individual conversation. Right now, you have tribalism, and
Mhm.
actually, you have violent tribalism.
Yes.
That if you say one thing negative about their team, they quite often the blood pressure comes up. I've seen it. I've had it happen to me where someone just freaks out on me who is a friend, who is
Yes.
a person that I care about, who does care about me, but it supersedes me because that has become the identity. And in a community, you have to be able to have a shared identity of some kind. It doesn't have to be the exact same culture. It doesn't have to, you just have to have a you're good, I'm good, we're gonna move forward as good.
Right.
You have to have empathy.
Hmm.
I'm sure you saw on my Facebook, I got a little cranky very quickly with the people on my I have a shared Facebook. There's a lot of people watching, but
Hmm.
some of the things I hear, some of the things I see, I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
So I don't usually get too aggressive. I just posted the definition of empathy because
Yes.
I think people needed to read it that day. But that's how now we're in that situation where you
Mhm.
can turn around and look, and their marketing, the grift is all
Yes.
over the yard. And
Yes.
yeah, us talking ain't gonna get
Mhm.
better. I'm gonna head out.
Right.
So no one learns. No one learns. No inclusion, no diversity of opinion. All of
Mm.
it's gone
Mhm.
because you got 44 flags saying I'm not going to listen to you on my front porch.
For sure.
So
I do have to
not
admit I
better.
saw that happen, and yes, 100% not better, not good at all. I have to admit I saw that post, and I saw, Cranky Mike jump out for just a quick second. I was very proud of you. I was really I was
Well, and
very proud.
I'm like the, I don't know, TV show stepdad kind of guy. I don't
You are.
swear a lot. I don't
No.
get a real aggressive. You've made me mad when I stare at your eyes and tell you to do better.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where I was like, okay, here we here we go. But also, because of the type of person that you are, you generally take the higher path, right? And you go, okay, so the square root of this issue, or the cause of this issue, generally is a misunderstanding. And there has been several times where you're like, okay, Rob, there's a misunderstanding here. That's why. And I'm just like, grumble, grumble. I like straight anger. And you're like, no, well, try to look at things the other way. So yes, even though in that moment we're Cranky Mike, you were still very level-headed, and posting the definition of empathy is something very, very subtle, but also very effective, because I think more people need that instead of just having two sides screaming into the void.
It's useless. What we have going on, the tribalism right now, no one can learn from it. That's where I really struggle. When you have violent tribalism, I don't mean punching. I
Right.
mean the moment you hear something negative, your blood pressure jumps up and you lash out at the person who said something. That is what I mean by violent tribalism.
Mm-hmm.
And what that is designed to do is to get you to jump back and say, I can't challenge them. Because all three of our kids, I have driven into their minds that it is okay to respectfully challenge everything.
Absolutely.
Respectfully challenge is
Mm-hmm.
that part has to be in there. That's the difference between learning and being a jerk. So you have to have the respectful part and be willing to listen to the other person, not just throw your words and walk away. If you're going to throw your words, you've invested the time. You better sit your butt down and hear what they got to say.
Yeah, have a
Because
conversation.
there are things that I absolutely dislike, but I know they're needed, or it's during this period of time we have to do it, or whatever it happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
So what the community needs is a stop. Realize that the person next to them is just a person living their life to the best of their ability.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend not making cable news a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Gardening is much more therapeutic. Your blood pressure will come down, I promise. Go for walks. Talk to your neighbors. Don't bring up politics. Bring up the side. You want to bring up politics? Bring up how there should be a stoplight on that corner. You want to
Mm-hmm.
bring up politics? Talk about, Clinton Street should have smoother surfaces for the sidewalks. I really wish the sidewalks by the parks were wider. They should be at least 2 strollers.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk politics, talk about improvement. Stay in your 3 miles.
Yes.
And if anybody's listening and you walk around and you look at the person next to you at the grocery store and start talking cable news, and that's what you're doing, by the way, you're just using sound bites as things that you've learned. Stop. No one wants to hear it. Those aren't real words. No one cares.
Yes.
So I don't think I'll get to too many people who are hearing this that will go, oh, that's me. But you can play it for those people if you want to. I'll make it into a short little clip. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to hear it. It's negativity. Let's go. You know what? I'll buy you a coffee if you stop talking.
That is a lot of money there, brother. Coffee's expensive.
Well, and for someone like me who's like a coffee snob now,
Mm-hmm.
So between getting coffee from Hawaii and getting coffee from Earth Roast, yeah, it could be. It could be a
Yeah.
problem for me.
Yep. You're gonna regret that offer there.
So the other thing is that people don't realize is that environmental degradation to a community is devastating.
Mm,
When the parks fall apart, when your environment, and I don't just mean the green space, but the impervious surface space, when everything starts to fall apart, when things start to look bad, when buildings go into disrepair,
mhm.
when the river is contaminated from the overflow from the combined storm drains and sewage lines, and you get alerts on a regular basis that it rained too hard, too much sewage went into your river, please do not kayak today.
All right.
These things are going to disrupt that community just as much as some of these other pieces.
Absolutely. And that's, I feel like that's another thing that has kind of been lost in today's communities is, I shared the story about, getting yelled at for not picking up a potato chip bag or whatever it is. And like now not only do I see people like not picking up the trash like at the end of their driveway or anything like that, but I see people actively contributing to it. Like it didn't just blow off of a garbage truck or randomly blow into your yard. Like people like lean their arm out of their car window and just kind of drop things. I'm like, wow, like we live here.
They have no connection to their community. At
None.
that point, you're at start over space again.
Yeah.
None at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same person that might see a crime and keep driving, unless they
Yes.
want it for their YouTube.
Right.
That's the same person who walks through your garden because it's a shortcut. Unfortunately, it degrades down to a point where it's almost like you don't even see it,
Right.
and that can't be an option.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I can leave anybody with anything, is your community is your quality of life, and all you need is empathy and effort. That is it. When I go for you went for a walk with me down through the town and saw me pick things up and throw them in the trash. It's just autopilot now because I live here. I want it to be nice.
Yeah.
And I don't really care if someone else doesn't. You ever notice that people are really, really good at going, but they didn't?
Yes.
Well, you aren't them. You are you. You became them. So did you give them the power to make you suck because they didn't do it?
Mm-hmm.
You can fix that by just doing it, being the example. We talk about positive footprints. Every time you do that, you're creating a positive footprint, and maybe some other kid over there sees you and they pick something up and throw it away.
Yeah.
So have empathy for others and have effort for your environment, because if your city, town, community, neighborhood, if those threads all pop, it's a miserable place to live. Property value drops, people move.
I think that would have been an excellent time for you to hold up a do is greater than say mug or something like that, by the way.
I think I have one here somewhere, and that is true. People talk. People talk all the time, but no one ever questions if I'm going to do something
Mm.
because they don't hear about it until after I've done it.
Right.
So if we all did the thing instead of talked about the thing, we would be so much further ahead. Have empathy for those around us, even for those you disagree with. Put those people side by side in the same garden. They'll like each other by the end of the day. And if you're going to talk cable news, shut up. No one wants to hear it.
I love it.
So, anyways, that's really what we had today. It's apparently me venting about communities and how they should be built and how they shouldn't be built. So, again, remember from earlier in my cute little rant in the middle of the show, if you want to try Magic Mind, and I would love to hear your feedback because I know people are trying it. They give me a cute little dashboard and tells me that people are trying it. Let me know how you like it. And if you haven't yet and you're waiting, click the link down in the description and use the code sustainability20. It's not only good for the show, but it saves you 20%. That is pretty much what we had for everybody today. If you like this episode, share it with a friend. If you have a family member that needs to turn off the television, send them a clip of me telling them that no one cares and we don't want to hear it. If you haven't already clicked the like and follow, please do, because that helps the show quite a bit. And Rob, it would not be a show unless I kicked it back to you to talk all the socials.
Yes, yes. But of course, two things. Don't forget that if you tell them to shut up about it and they actually shut up about it, Mike owes them a coffee. So don't
Positive
forget.
footprint. You know what? You get them to shut up about it for any length of time, more than like 15 minutes. We're going to have to do something about that. I will have to do some. If you're in the neighborhood, straight to stomping grounds.
Yep. And it's walkable too. So
It is.
even better. So you can find me virtually anywhere via at Robbie Diesel. You type in Robbie Diesel and a picture of my beautiful brown face will pop up. You can check me out on thecuratedculture.com. That is my website where I discuss generally anything nerdy and exciting in the world of tech and pop culture. I also have a podcast called The Curated Culture where I dissect, some of the hottest stories and news items from the world of tech and pop culture, such as PlayStation being down for almost an entire 24 hours and nearly ruining my weekend. So that's going to be something for sure. And then, all the socials, The Curated Culture, at The Curated Culture on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, and _ Curated Culture on X, although that is probably going away very soon.
I canceled mine. I do not. It is gone. I do not have X. And by the way, I really am starting to enjoy Blue Sky. So
yes, yeah.
Anybody who would like to follow me, you can either go to the website, greeningyourlife.org, and click on any of the Facebook groups there. You can find me at michael.nazarian.79 on Facebook if you want to just follow my personal Facebook for all the summer hiking and different places we go. Last time was Hawaii. It was a great time. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok for as long as it exists, and YouTube and Blue Sky. So feel free to follow any of us. And remember, all we're trying to do is get a little better. You can take some of this, you can leave some of this. But if you take even the smallest thread and it makes your day better, makes your life better, we're winning. We're just trying to get a little bit better each day. Little bit, big bit. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm Mike.
And I am Robbie Diesel.
And I will talk to you soon. Thanks again.